Thanks for meeting with me and responding to my email. I'm hoping that we can discuss Brock's behavior in my classroom. I really enjoy Brock as a student, but I'm worried about some of the actions that he has been performing in the classroom. My hope for this meeting is to collaborate and find some ways that we can kind of help Brock be successful in the classroom.
Absolutely. My goal is for Brock to be as successful as possible in the general education classroom. Tell me more about what you're seeing in Brock's behavior.
So one of the first things I noticed about Brock in my classroom is that he's a very lively and willingness to participate in some specific areas. He often speaks up in class, adding his thoughts and opinions, but sometimes his actions overshroud his positives. Some of his behaviors that I've noticed includes aggressive outbursts towards other students, leaving a seat without permission, a creative word selection, to say the least, and refusal to work with other peers or independently. Brock is currently in a foster home due to his mother being in and out of prison. I feel like these behaviors are due to the lack of attention he receives at home. The attention that he seeks is more negative attention than positive attention in my classroom.
Gotcha. How often are you noticing these behaviors? Is it an everyday occurrence or is it just a few times a week?
For the most part, the behaviors happen every class period. However, it is more intense in the mornings during the heavy content-based subjects. For example, in math and reading, I have seen some of Brock's more aggressive behavior towards his peers and lack of interest in his assignments.
Can you give me an example of a time where you noticed one of these problem behaviors?
Yeah. One time during the lesson, Brock was commenting on a student was commenting on one of Brock's outbursts. The student told Brock that Brock was distracting him from one of his assignments, and Brock quickly responded, standing up, walking over to the student, and pushing him out of his seat to the ground. I responded by telling Brock by heading go to the office, and that I was going to tell him that he was on his way. Brock ended up just running out of the room.
Have you collected any data showing his actions or behaviors?
Yes. So last week I've been collecting data on Brock's behavior, which involves passive or verbal refusal to my instruction, as well as his engagement and participation in learning activities. For the passive and aggressive behaviors, I have recorded tallies for every behavior that occurs by the hour. For the engagement, I have been time sampling to keep track of his participation in class. Every 5 minutes, I check to see whether if his attention is on the lesson or if it's somewhere else in the classroom. I indicate that this with a plus or a minus. Sometimes I've noticed that this data are the increase or in negative behavior as well as when the week progresses. The closer Brock finds himself to the weekend, the more behavior he exhibits. This correlates with his participation through our week as well. Through our weeks as well. As the weekend approaches, his participation in class also decreases significantly. I have a graph that I'd like to show you what I kind of figured out. So, right here, I have kind of his refusals and also participation. So here, let's start up here. So right now, on the x-axis, we have the days, the 5 days that I was collecting data, and on the y-axis, we have his refusals per hour. So as we can see, the first day he was around 6, the second day he was around 12, on the third day he was at 14, on the fourth day he was at 22, and on the fifth day he was at 20 refusals per hour. So I found the midpoint in mid-range. So the midday was the third day, and then the mid-range of refusals was also the third day, sitting at 14. So this is kind of the average of his refusals per day, or yes, per hour. Down here, I have his participation. So on the x-axis, we have days, and on the y-axis, we have his participation. So on the first day, kind of saying earlier, in the beginning of the week, his participation has seemed to be more involved. So he was up around 65%. On the second day, he was at 50%. On the third day, he was sitting at around 60, but on the fourth and fifth day, especially on the fourth day, he was right around 30, and on the fifth day, he was at 40. So I found that his mid date is at 3 days, the third day is his mid date, and 60, yes, 60 is his mid rate for participation. So again, both of these numbers are the medium date points of the observation.
Okay. So what I'm comprehending that you're saying is that Brock is a good kid, but is in need help with his behavior. I see that you've used event recording throughout the past 5 days to monitor his behavior. From what you have said, Brock's bad behavior increases as the week goes on, and it is mostly in the morning during content that is heavier. From the graphs that I'm gathering, over a period of a week, your mid-date is 3 and the mid-range is 14. Based on your data from Brock's number of refusals, I also see that your graph for Brock's participation shows that the mid-date is 3 and the mid-range is 50. I also understand that his behavior seemed to be a cry out for attention, even though the attention is not positive. With his mother being in jail and being placed in foster care, life cannot be easy on Brock outside of school. Does this seem to sum up the problems that we're facing here?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. What do you believe our next steps should be from here, or what methods would you like to approach and try to improve Brock's behavior and his participation?
So my goal for Brock is that he decreases the number of refusals per hour to 12 tallies per hour at the most. I chose this number because of the mid rate now. According to the data, he's at 14, and my goal is to see Brock lower than the mid rate within the next 2 weeks time period.
I think this goal is very achievable for Brock. However, I would like to see the mid rate decrease more within a 2-week time period. I see that on day 1 and 2, Brock had a total of 6 and 12 tallies per hour. I would like to see the mid rate at 10 tallies per hour within the next 2 weeks, due to the fact that he is capable of achieving 6 tallies per hour on Monday without the intervention. I believe we have enough strategies under our belt to help Brock achieve great things. So now, what are you thinking for his participation goals?
No, I agree with the 10 tallies per hour. I think it's a very reasonable goal for him. So my goal for Brock's participation is that his mid rate increases by 20%. This will put his mid rate for Brock's participation at 70 within the next 2 weeks.
I will say I completely agree with this goal. I think Brock is very capable of achieving 70% engagement/participation rate based on the data that you have already collected. With this intervention in the 2-week time period, I believe Brock's behavior will improve significantly.
Awesome.
Now, after the 2 weeks are up and we've collected all of our new data, a rule that I've been told to implement when looking at data charts after an intervention is called the 4-point decision rule. This will help us decide if change is needed to the goal or intervention being discussed/observed. So for example, if we see 4 data points above the aim line, we will have to meet again to make the necessary adjustment to get 4 points below the aim line for his refusals.
All right, sounds like a plan.
Let's discuss some short and long-term intervention strategies we could use to help improve Brock's behavior as well as his participation. Some of the short-term interventions I was thinking to help Brock's behavior were hurdle helping and positive rephrasing. So hurdle helping would involve assisting Brock with specific tasks that he might be having a hard time with. This entails encouraging words, offering assistance, or offering extra material to get him back on task. An example of this would be preventing Brock from getting frustrated during his subjects he has the most difficult time in.
I agree with hurdle helping. I think preventing the behaviors before they happen would save a lot of time in class.
Absolutely. I also think it would be a great choice. Another idea that I think that might work with Brock's behavior would be positive rephrasing or positive phrasing. This means when Brock is exhibiting disruptive behaviors in the classroom, we use a positive phrase rather than saying something negative about his behavior. This should help him remain calm as long as we remain calm as well, while taking his negative actions and turning them into a positive.
I like this idea too. However, I feel like hurdle helping might be the best short-term strategy to choose. Preventing the behaviors before it's happening will not only be beneficial for Brock, but for the rest of the class as well.
Great, I'm glad we've come to a decision for a short-term strategy. Now let's talk about a long-term strategy that we can use to reduce Brock's negative behavior.
Of course, what do you have in mind?
One of the long-term strategies I had in mind was creating a behavioral contract. Having this contract will outline the behavior expectations we have for Brock, as well as the responsibilities we as teachers can hold ourselves accountable to as well. So the contract will also include rewards and for positive actions and consequences for negative actions. You will be working with Brock to create this contract together. This will hold you both accountable each day, so you can take responsibility for your actions throughout the day. This contract will be something for Brock to refer back to for both negative and positive actions he displays throughout the day. How do you feel about creating this contract?
I think it's a good idea. I like how it holds him accountable also as well as myself. I'm interested to see how it works, and hopefully it kind of creates a more stronger relationship between Brock and I.
Great, I'm glad we've come to a decision with both of these strategies. Now let's do a little role play of how we can use hurdle helping in the classroom as well as creating a behavioral contract with Brock.
Okay.
So you're going to pretend to be Brock, and I will pretend to be you.
Sounds like a plan.
Hey Brock, I see that you have quite a few math problems left to finish on your paper.
Yeah, because I don't feel like doing them right now. They're stupid.
Well, how about I sit here with you and help you with your problems that you're struggling with, and we can work together as a team. So by sharing the workload with Brock, this will help prevent him from getting frustrated due to the heavy workload of the math problems. You're not being negative about his comment, but rather helping him with the content that he's struggling with.
I think that would work great with Brock. He's looking for attention that when his behavior occurs, so hurdle helping is a good way to prevent those behaviors from escalating, especially showing that positive behavior.
Great. Now let's try to discuss the behavioral contract and how it can be modeled with, or how it can be done with him.
All right.
Okay, Brock, so we're going to create a behavioral contract together. So this means that we're going to set up a list of goals and responsibilities for the both of us to follow each day. So let's work on trying to make sure that we are not refusing to participate in class activities throughout the day. For each activity we do, if you receive one or less refusals, you will get a choice to have lunch with me or receive a prize of your choice. If you refuse to do class activities more than 2 times, we will have to have a meeting discussing your behavior during your free time. So now as for you, as your behavioral contract, you will explain to Brock that you will try to understand his situation when problem behaviors occur and where he's coming from before you add tallies to the amount of refusals that he has. And then you can also tell him that you will sit down to express his side of the story and your side of the story before coming to a conclusion.
All right.
And these goals can be adjusted to fit whatever works best for Brock and yourself as well. How does that sound for you?
I think both of these will work great with preventing Brock's negative behavior. How about let's meet back up in a couple weeks to see how all these strategies kind of are working out for Brock.
All right. I will be around quite a bit these next 2 weeks to observe Brock's behaviors as well as answer any questions you may have about the strategies that we discussed.
Awesome. Sounds like a plan. Thanks.
2 weeks later. So with my observations, I've been noticing some great improvements with Brock's behavior in the classroom. I've noticed multiple instances of hurdle helping during heavy content subjects. I really like how you remained calm and provided Brock the help he needed with the workload before the behavior actually became more severe and became a distraction to other students. I also really noticed how much Brock's aggressions have gone down, as well as seeing how much his participation has increased. I think hurdle helping was a great idea to use to help Brock with his behaviors. How do you feel? Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think the short-term strategies have shown to be very effective with Brock, and even like other students in my classroom. Hurdle helping has made the biggest impact on Brock, to hands down. This is he's more willing to participate and share when work is being shared. This has also helped formed a stronger relationship with Brock and I. With Hurdle helping making a larger impact, the question I had was, how can I kind of incorporate that in areas with like less content, excuse me.
I would say to keep checking on Brock when he looks like he's having a hard time with any of these activities in the class to prevent these negative behaviors from occurring again. But I'm really glad that this works so well. I've also noticed how well the behavioral intervention plan behavior plan has been working. I really like how you reminded Brock of the plan and Brock of the plan and the repercussions and rewards that came with it. I think having the plan help remind Brock of all the things he is capable of achieving if he tries his best. I also like how you reminded Brock that you were there to listen to him when he's having problems. Allowing him to know that you were there to listen to him when he needs you the most is very beneficial to his behavior.
Thanks. The behavior contract have shown to help as well. When we first start, he often reminded me of of his expectations as well as mine. So we were both being held accountable. Much of this happened the first week after the contract being implemented. Now that we're at the end of the second week, I've kind of noticed that Brock has been showing a slight disinterest in the contract, and I was just wondering if there's like any tips that you can help me, that we can help like promote the contract to him to keep showing him that's important, so that doesn't keep happening.
Okay. So I would say the best thing to do with this long-term strategy is to meet back up with Brock, have another talk with him and discuss new rewards or consequences, or see if there's anything he would like to improve with his behavior to add to that contract. So try adding those and just keep rearranging the contract until his behaviors have changed and improved.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for your help. And so these past 2 weeks have been such a huge impact on Brock's behavior. I've noticed that he's had a whole complete 180 in his behaviors in my classroom, and his numbers of his participation has increased, and as well as his refusals to do work has also decreased as well. He has succeeded in the goals, or he's actually exceeded all of his goals, and his refusals were down to 10, all the way down to, yes, he has achieved the 4-point rule that you kind of explained, and his referrals per hour. So let me show you kind of the chart that I've kind of had over these last 2 weeks. So 2 weeks, his refusals, you see that he is actually, so this was our aim line that we kind of went at, and the 4-point rule, he's actually shown having an average of 8 tallies, of having an average of only 8 refusals. So he's definitely reaching his mark and actually exceeding it. His participation is also being exceeded, where this is the aim line that we were at, and these 4 marks showing that he has now increased, not just increased, but increased it even more than aim line, and now he's sitting at an average of 74% participation throughout the class. So like I'm very happy with how Brock's has taken to these strategies and everything.
Great. Well, I'm really glad we could come up with some strategies that worked really well for Brock. I would like to see these strategies continue and see if it can improve even more, and we can reduce both the refusals per hour and increase his participation. So.
Awesome. Great. Sounds like a plan.